Hey guys, what's up? It's Mr. Pappas. We are going to look at the distillation of wood experiment and its purpose and materials. You should also watch the video on the procedure and how to do the lab. This video is just going to explain the purpose and the materials of the distillation of wood lab. You should probably start out by knowing what distillation is. And distillation is just a method used to separate substances by heating a substance. We'll actually use this method quite often during the year, so you should be familiar with it and grow accustomed to it as the year goes on. The purpose, this experiment is actually split up into two different parts, so we're going to look at part one first. Part one's purpose is what will happen if you heat some wood splints in a test tube without burning them. So we're going to heat them while the wood splints are in a test tube, so we're not directly heating the wood splints themselves, we're heating up the test tube. Here is a picture of the setup and the materials you are going to use. I also have a materials list for you. You're going to need the following things. I'm not going to run through them all. You can read them and write them down in your notebook. But this is all the materials you are going to use for part one. Now part one will take you most of the class period. So after you're done with part one, you're going to let your setup sit overnight on your lab bench just off to the side so the other group can do their experiment, and then the next day you'll do part two. So let's look at part two, the purpose. The purpose of part two is the liquid in the condensing tube you collected in part one. Is it one liquid or more than one? And are the wood splints flammable after part one? So you're going to take the wood splints from your test tube that you burnt in part one and test to see if they are flammable. You're also going to take the liquid you collected in part one and distill it even further to see if it's one or more liquids. Here's a setup for day two. That test tube you see over the burner stand is the test tube from day one, so make sure you save it, and you're going to use it to distill it to see if it is one or more liquids. And here are the materials you need for part two. I'm not going to read through them, but you can pause the video and write them down in your notebook.